Hello and welcome to Gups Up Orchid Seek. Once again, I'm here with one more personality who inspires me. Now, what is Gupshup Orchid Seek all about? It's all about saying thank you to few of those people who have inspired me in my journey of life. आज के जो हमारे गेस्ट हैं वो कुछ बहुत डिफरेंट है. Somebody from my profession, but somebody who inspires me. Why? So while I was in school days, I had a lot of Parsi friends, a lot of Parsi friends, and still I'm connected with them. And you know why I connected with them during my school days? Because there was a chapter wherein we were taught that Parsis came to Gujarat and they mingled with people as the way they were Gujaratis, you know. So I always felt that they are so soft-spoken, so well-mannered, and I belong to a family where manners, discipline is, matters a lot. So that's something which I always connected with, and I have so many Parsi friends, and they are so simple. However knowledgeable they may be, however wealthy they may be, but they are as simple as you and me. They don't show off, they don't preen around, but they talk intelligence, I mean to say. And there's somebody who would be a part of the crowd, who would walk with the crowd, and who are very people-oriented. So today's guest is none other than Havovi Bhagwakar. Hi, Havovi. It's
Hi,
such
Riddhi.
a pleasure to have you at Gupshup Orchid Seek, and thank you so much for accepting my invite.
I was so excited and also wondering what is this going to be about because I
It's going
don't.
to be a Pandora's box of questions, all will come one after another.
I'm looking forward. I'm a little nervous also.
Don't be, please. It's going to be really simple. So, friends, let me introduce you to Havovi. Havovi is a psychologist and psychotherapist with her private practice, Manashni. She has a trauma-informed approach in her therapeutic practice and works specifically with complex trauma and personality disorders. She writes to raise awareness on mental health through her blog and through the media. I often tend to read her blogs on Powai Network Newsline. Also, she's somebody who stands for the cause, and she stands for the word psychology. Recently, I happened to be supporting her because she raised her voice against somebody who was kind of having millions of followers on Instagram, but she was talking something which was not psychology. Hence, I support Havovi. I support her because she's brave enough to go up there on social media and talk about it, stand for what she believes in. Once again, Havovi, you inspire.
Thank you, Riddhi. Thank you for being here. And the feelings are mutual. You inspire me too. You're like this person who probably does so much. I wonder how you get that time and energy and enthusiasm.
Thank you
It's
so
a very
much, Havovi.
mutual feeling.
Thank you so much. So, Havovi, as a part of ritual, there are a few questions which I'm going to ask, kind of rapid fire, but you can take your time.
Oh.
Because I want people to know that when people know you as a psychotherapist, as a psychologist, but I want people to know that there's the other side of Havovi as well. And this is something which is really personal. So, Havovi, tell me 5 things people don't know about you as an individual.
That I'm very scared of speaking in public. I know that's a joke because I must be doing talks almost every second day, but I am extremely nervous to be in public. And another thing that people don't know about me is that I am completely the opposite when I'm with my friends.
Oh,
I'm totally, I mean, there are times when they have told me, like, we cannot believe you're this person who does all this gyan and all that. Because when I'm with my, trusted few, I really let my hair down and we have such good fun. That's
brilliant.
that's a side of me very few people see. Very, very few. Only my really close one. I think so. That's two, right? So another
Yes.
third one, that I'm very passionate about cooking And
Yes, yes.
I
I'm
think
going
now
to ask
people,
you about that. Yes.
I think now because of the lockdown, I've had the chance to make stuff and post it, and actually write down the recipes and all that. But that's
Yes.
again
I do
something that
remember that mango tart, and you had put up on your timeline Facebook, and I said, okay, now I'm so hungry. I literally want to have this.
yeah. So I just love cooking, especially desserts. And another thing is that I do a lot of work. Which is not really publicized, and I don't like to talk about it. A lot of work that I do on the sideline, and I'm not even comfortable sharing it here.
That's
But
perfectly fine.
there's a huge side of social work and other things which I'm very conscious I don't share with anyone. It's just for humanity and doing that work.
But I'm
Yes,
sure you must be doing amazing, because when you say this, I'm sure people are benefiting a lot. Stay blessed, Habobi.
that's four, and a fifth one is that I have, yeah, that I had depression. I think that's one thing which a lot of people don't know about. This is a good chance to talk about it. I was diagnosed with depression, and thankfully I'm more stable now. But my journey has been very difficult, with having clinical depression. So it's a lot of lived experience which also helps me in my work.
Amazing. So, friends, it needs guts to speak about your own mental health issue, specifically when you are practicing mental health, or you are considered to be the one of the best in the field of mental health practitioners list. Why I'm saying this, because when the COVID struck, and when I was also handling a lot of clients, there was a time that I felt that I am tired, and I actually had to go for healing for my own self. And it's no taboo to ask for help, to seek help, and to get one for your own self. So, how are we? Amazing. I can so relate to this. How about we four things that are most dear to you?
Definitely my family. Most dear to me above everything else is my family. My husband and my son and my immediate family. Then part of my family. But the second thing is my dog, my pet. He is
Oh,
most dear to me. Then the third thing would be my privacy, very dear to me and very difficult in this age of social media, where
absolutely.
where you constantly are in the spotlight and you sometimes put yourself also there. And the fourth thing dear to me, very dear, are my closest group of trusted friends who I can share anything with and who are my support system and who I can lean on anytime. So that's also really dear to me.
Brilliant, brilliant. What are those three things that we find on your bedside table, Habobi?
Haha. Oh gosh. So recently my husband gifted me this thing for Mother's Day. I'm sorry, it's a technology based something like an iPad but which works on commands
Okay.
and which has Alexa on it. And I'm very spooked out about using technology, by the way. So I think just to get me eased up with it, he bought that. So I found that is really helpful, and it does a variety of things like plays music I want to play, reads me the news, tells me a bedtime story. So
Oh,
it's
wow.
like having a buddy.
Wow.
Yeah, it's an amazing device. So that's next to my bedside. Then there are photographs of a couple of my gurus. I believe in Yogananda. And when I had visited his ashram in Ranchi as a small child, 8 or 9 year old, I remember we had carved something out of a bark of a tree that was there in the ashram. That's
Oh,
where the
lovely.
Yoga Paramahansa's photo is. So that's always on my bedside. It has been since I was 8, I think. And whichever
Oh,
houses
wow.
I've traveled in, that's always been on my bedside.
Amazing.
So that's always there. Third thing that's always there is a bottle of water,
Oh, yes.
because I consume the 3 liter mark anytime. So they say you should have 3 liters. I think I drink 3 liters in the morning only. So I have too much water through the day. But yeah, that's always on my bedside too.
That's lovely. That's really lovely. Two things you are literally passionate about, I mean, Hawaii and this passion cannot be separated, kind of.
Habovi and mental health.
Ah,
Imagine if I was barely 14 or 15 and I had such a clear vision I wanted to be a psychologist and psychotherapist. I never wavered this left or right from my path. it's
Amazing.
very it's very difficult for me to extricate my personality from my profession. They are two become intertwined with one another. Because
Amazing.
I think later on when I did the MBTI, I found that because I'm an INFJ, I this profession is the most suited for my field, and people with the INFJ preference typically choose their profession also very early in life, and that's what
Mhm.
happened with me as well. I just gravitated towards it. I never wavered left or right. So that's one thing. And I think the second thing, which is Havobi, is Parsi, maybe, because a lot of people identify me as that, and I identify myself with it. So that's the second thing, probably.
Lovely, lovely. However, one thing that you wish to do, but you have not been able to do so far.
Mm. I have wanted very long to start a support group for people with personality disorders and borderline personality disorder. And I hope at someday, and for people suffering from complex trauma. And that is one thing which I hope in the future it brings to me. And I can
Oh,
do it in a much more organized way and in a way that benefits people.
I'm sure. I'm sure. So, how are we now coming to some serious talk?
Oh,
Serious
the
in the
rapid
sense,
fire is over?
yeah, rapid fire is over. You can take take a chill pill. Okay, so few questions, which will help people to understand that what makes Havobi and what are her aspirations. Okay, so I wanted to know that what drew you to psychology while you read Abhi just 5 minutes before you said that you had a clear passion and clear vision about being a psychologist. But what drew you towards psychology?
Um, if I look back at my life, one of course I always gravitated towards the field of health. But I've spoken about this before. I didn't have the aptitude for maths and science. There was no way I could go into being a doctor. That was the out of the question only by my seventh or eighth grade. I said, Baba, I can't even draw one biology diagram properly. Somehow I'm passing maths and science by the grace of God. So that was out. But I knew I wanted to do something in healthcare for sure. And as you know, as I started understanding and reading about it, I knew psychology would be the field for me. Also in my family I saw a lot of mental health issues.
Oh,
My mother's brother, my mama, he was diagnosed with schizophrenia and he passed away very early because his medications were not on track, and I'm talking about now 80s, when
okay.
what was the treatment that we had for schizophrenia in India. And he had the really severe type of psychosis that we know with controlled medication we have a lot that can be done with that level of psychosis. So I saw the way that my family all had to rally around him, the impact it had on people in our family and relatives. And he died a really early death in his 30s
Oh God.
because of it was in a road accident. And that was also a turning point in my life. I began understanding the need for proper help in this area. And I also saw in my family, because of this, in Parsis, there's a lot of consanguineous marriages, because the
Yes,
community is small, there's a lot of consanguineous marriages, and there are a lot of health issues and mental health issues because of that. So, seeing that, I became more convinced that I need to probably work in this area.
hmm,
That was a smaller factor. The bigger factor was just a very gravitated towards it as a natural interest,
I
uh,
understand.
more as
Uh,
something that was what I wanted to do.
Lovely. However, you are a teenager's mom. What role do you play now? A mother or a friend to him?
I think I'm very clear. You can never be a friend, a proper friend to your child, because he'll have a lot of
Absolutely.
friends or she'll have lots of friends, but they'll have only two parents. And they need to have a parent who can really love and discipline them uh, fairly in a balanced way. That said, and I hope my son doesn't watch this, but that said, it's been very difficult being the mother of a teenager. Yeah, I could see that shift in him literally in a matter of few months. The shift from the child who used to love hugging and kissing and all the time around me and mama mama, to this suddenly mm, avoid every interaction, no connection, sit in the room whole day, not talk, not interact. So that transition was tough for me. Now that he is moving towards getting out of teenage, I think that rough patch is over. So in the 4 5 years of teenage that we were together, we did have some pretty much meltdowns, arguments, and a lot of ups and downs. And I remember my own words, which I had spoken in a workshop once, which is that if your child doesn't tell you he hates you at least once, you're not doing a good job as a
Oh,
parent.
yo.
This is the age at which they're going to tell you this. Be prepared for it, even if it doesn't come out in those strong words. It is going to be their demeanor, and it means that they can be comfortable with you. So yeah, he's had his share of meltdowns and anger with me and all those things.
It's obvious.
Now
It's obvious.
it's natural, and you just have to ride through it, and you still have to be patient and strong to a large
Yes,
extent. But I'll tell you,
absolutely.
a lot of things have changed with the lockdown. Had this 1.5 years not been there, I don't know how things may have been different, but this 1.5 years has brought us very close,
Lovely.
extremely close, because of the housework we had to do together, the 24 hours we're spending together in one home, the way he's understood about me and I've understood about him may not have happened if this period of isolation was not there. So
Amazing.
it's been good. He's now moving out of that curve of teenage, so he's somewhere coming back to the sweet child, but in a grown-up way. So I'm looking forward to what he'll be like as an adult.
I am sure. I'm sure. Your Facebook, as I just mentioned, I have been following you on Facebook, and I always find some food and recipe post. And so, do you prefer some traditional Parsi cuisine, or you love to experiment? I have been a huge fan of Parsi food because as I mentioned, I have huge number of Parsi friends, and they're very close friends. So I have been at their place. They have always, made some amazing desserts, and have ensured that I get on my birthday specifically, I get to eat that. So what's your preference? You prefer proper traditional Parsi food, or you love to experiment?
So I'm first of all a person who likes to make desserts. So if
Arre.
you, so even if my dessert goes flop, somehow it tastes nice. But with with food, I have to be careful. It doesn't come naturally to me. So that's why I'm a little more conventional when it comes to cooking food. I thought I have to follow the recipes, and with desserts, I find naturally, some things just come naturally. It comes naturally. I know I can add this, that, and still taste nice. With food, I have to be a little careful, and plus, I'm not very good with continental food, so it flops very badly when I make it. So I'm careful there also. But Indian food, I love to eat and I love to cook. So anything Indian. Parsi, of course, yes, because one of the reasons is that I don't see it on people's timelines, and we don't get to eat it when we go out anywhere, right? Nobody really
Absolutely.
serves you those traditional Parsi food. So I like to read up some of the old, the Parsis who used to write, like this Katie Dalal's book, which my husband just gifted me. That was very nice. All really those, very traditional, what you would see in
Oh,
Gaon, that
wow.
kind of recipes cooked on wood fire. She's kind of modernized it and brought it there. So I try to cook those, and it's nice because we've never tried those. Wood. Can you hear me? I think it froze up
I
for a bit.
lost. Yes, now I can.
Okay. So I like to experiment with Parsi food purely because our palate doesn't get to taste many of these things outside. It's
Yes,
not
yes.
easily available. So
Not easily available. That's true. That's true.
just to try something new, that's what. And my husband loves eating all kinds of Parsi stuff. He's extremely fond of it.
Amazing.
So
So I was born in Navsari. So
ah,
Navsari is a place that's full of Parsi. My initial years of schooling was also in Navsari. So I mean, I have amazing memories I have created at that place. With my friends. And recently I visited Navsari, and I met a couple of my friends also, and it's brilliant. I mean, after years connecting with your friends
it's a
and Parsi
lovely,
friends. So,
quaint, old kind of town. But do
absolutely.
you eat a lot of vegetarian since you
Yes.
are? Oh, then
Yes.
how do you manage with Parsi food? Because they seem to just cook only non-veg food.
No. I have friends who specifically made the one is that's Dhanshak,
Yeah,
and yeah, I hope I'm pronouncing it right.
correct.
Then yes, desserts are amazing. There's a line of desserts which I have tasted at Kamal's place. So she's my friend who's now in Bombay, but she's from Navsari. So whenever we used to meet Nilofer, Kushnuma, and all that, those my friends. And there's one more item I forgot. It's a little spicy with a kind of a pie kind of thing. but it's a little
Okay.
spicier side, on spicier side.
Vegetarian?
Vegetarian, yes, yes.
Okay. So is it a lot of vegetables mixed together or like a
Yes,
dish,
yes.
like a
No,
pie?
no, no. Like a pie, but it's like with vegetable puree, you know. Just like you make a apple tart, it's similar to that.
Parsis love that. That would be like a vegetarian tart, and we are very
Yes,
fond of crushed patties, tarts,
yes.
chicken samosas, and everything that you can. Even vegetables, when we cook, we usually will cook it with a little non-veg inside because
Ayo.
Parsis don't eat vegetables just like that. My husband doesn't touch vegetables.
Oreo. So I had a music teacher. I mean, she was a Parsi as well, and she knew that I love food. So I'm a total foodie. So she was aware. So whenever I used to go to her place for my practice session, वो कुछ तो मुझे खाने को मिलता था along with my session. I used to so love that place. Now often I used to go for practice. कभी school से होता
Yeah.
था, or probably my mother used to send. My mother has been a radio singer
Okay.
before her marriage. So she used to sing at the morning prayers at BBC India as well. So and she's a brilliant voice. So that's how we all had inherited, and we started learning classical, Hindustani classical, and that's where this Parsi teacher was kind of helping me to work on my vocal as well.
How amazing. Parsi food, what a connection, right?
Yeah, actually. Okay, tell me, do you think that now a term has literally, those days we talk about, just as we talk about vacation, we talk about workation. Yeah. So workation do you think it's a new reality?
I think it's going to be this whole thing about blended learning from schools to blended workplaces, which means partially offline, partially online. And we are going to be having a lot of flexibility coming up in the next few years, I think. So people are going to be taking vacations and working and not hiding it. A lot of people
not hiding it. That's true.
Not hiding because the productivity indexes are quite high. No, people have seen that it's fine even if you are sitting somewhere in Maldives and all those other places which we have seen online. You still are doing as much productive work. So I don't think that's so bad whatsoever. But I think there's a downside. I don't know, one reporter I remember had called me some time back and was wondering whether there's a downside to it. Probably, maybe it just you can't either be on vacation, neither can you work. So you have to consider all things before you take this up.
That's so true. And then somewhere you have to, as a person, a professional, you have to draw a line. Otherwise it's going to be continuous.
I think such is the case for any time that we are working.
Absolutely. However, what do you think? What is the world desperately in need of now?
Now with the COVID times, compassion for sure.
That's so true.
Yeah, and I think we have distanced ourselves from compassion in the last year. We've started becoming angry, irritable. We've become less tolerant, right? In some ways, and then at the same time, we know that compassion, love, kindness, gratitude, all these things are so needed, and that has made us survive through COVID in this time. I mean, when the government machinery wasn't working, what happened in April and May was just compassion, right? Everybody reaching out for help, helping people obtain oxygen to medical supplies. So that's where our world has to go, because when we look back, we're not going to look back at the crisis as such, we're going to look back at our role in it and what we received from others.
Absolutely.
The kindness we receive from people, the compassion we receive from others, that's what's going to stick in our memories. So I think the world needs large doses of compassion.
Absolutely. I can so agree, because I've recently experienced while I was in Ahmedabad, while my father was unwell, there were a few people who kind of abandoned us, like thinking that the whole family is done with COVID. So they even didn't look at us. Even when we were going on that floor, they used to close the doors on us, And we had people who used to kahin se bhi phone karke, they used to arrange for oxygen cylinders, and they would say, okay, aap niche baithe ho building ke niche, would you like to have some water, some khana and all? So we experienced everything. And I also experienced that money is not the only thing.
It isn't.
It is not money. Even if you have tons of money, but if you are not connected with people, or if you are not compassionate yourself, or you're not empathetic towards yourself or other people, you cannot survive in this world.
Isn't that so true? I think the richest of people have not been able to get hospital beds or medical help in time, but the people who, the poorest of poor, just through their connection, have managed to survive. So it's a huge learning lesson.
Absolutely. I still remember just 1.5 months before we wanted to use a washroom on the first floor of my papa's building. So my mother, my father, and my father's caretaker, all three were down with COVID. And we were sitting down, all 4 sisters were sitting down, our husbands were down, so that anything needed, and the doctors used to come, we'd set up a hospital kind of in the house itself. So we couldn't go in, but we're just waiting for doctors, and there were 3 nurses been there to support my father's father and my mom, both of them. So what we noticed is that the building secretary would kind of not even talk to us. He was just walked away, all right? And he would just, since we had a lot of cars parked, driver bhi rakhe the ki kahin pe bhi bhagna hai, to my sister's driver, my other sister, my 2 sisters are in Ahmedabad, so everything was so handy ki kahin pe bhi bhagna hai, so we can just go, right? And we saw that the building security manager and all were kind of constantly there. Kuch lake do aapko, kuch chahiye. So, I mean, do you understand the difference? Right.
Just look at that, right?
And it was so touching. It is. I mean,
we can see both the different sides of the spectrum also. I hope everyone's okay now in your family.
Yes. So we lost my father to COVID just 1.5 months before. Yeah.
Wow.
And
so I'm so sorry.
Well. No, that's perfectly all right. My mom is trying to settle herself, and everything is good otherwise. Yeah, I understand. Okay, however, since it's such an intense discussion going on, any words of advice to all those who are watching us right now, live, or to all those who are going to watch it later as well? Any words of advice?
I think connect with your humanity. Just following up from what you just said, Riddhi, because we forget sometimes in our anxiety to connect with our human side, and COVID has created so much anxiousness and fear in people, and stigma has been the outcome of that. So just to connect with that sense of humanity, help people out. In the end, we know what we give literally comes back to us twofold. Blessings, that's what counts in the end. Connection to one another, that's what counts in the end. And keep in mind, there is an end in sight. Even if we can't see it, there is an end to all of this. It may feel like it's endless, but it has happened in the past. We have survived disasters. And if you survive it, that's enough. You don't have to think that you have to come out of it stronger and wiser or thinner.
Absolutely.
You don't have to.
Absolutely.
Just be human. Do the best you can. Be kind to yourself. And part of compassion, which I missed, is be compassionate to the self first.
Very much needed. Very much needed.
Is enough in today's world.
Very much
today's
needed.
Times.
Yeah. Absolutely. Thank you so much, Abhavi, for sparing some time. I know how busy you are, and I hope you've completed your doctorate.
I will be in some time because of the COVID scenario. Collecting data has become challenging.
I understand
because things are shut down, right? And you can do only so much online. But if the data collection went fine by now, I would have, been on a roll. But with COVID, there's been.
I'm keeping my fingers crossed. You finish ASAP, and you get all those support. So, friends, do follow Hawavi on LinkedIn. She writes wonderful articles. You follow her on Facebook because she's been writing even. She shares her articles as well. So don't miss out. There is something to learn whenever you read an article. So please follow her. And if you have any comments or any questions for us, do put it in the comment section, and we are sure to get the reply for you from Hawavi. Thank you so much, Hawavi, for being there today as a guest on Gupshup or Good Seek.
Thank you, Riddhi, for being here, for having me on this show. And I loved it. I got to know myself a little bit.
Thank you so much.
Revisited so many memories. Thank you so much. Wish you all the best.
Thank you. Thank you.